Today's guest is a business psychologist, mindset coach, and author dedicated to helping leaders navigate workplace stress and burnout. Co-host of the Coaching Unpacked podcast, she's spent over 15 years coaching individuals across the public sector, including key workers in the NHS during the COVID-19 pandemic. Her book, Coaching Through Burnout, gives a practical framework for leaders to support their teams while maintaining personal resilience. Welcome to Leadership That Sells. This is the show where we decode what great sales leadership really looks like. If you're leading a team of managers and wondering why things still feel misaligned, not quite working, it might not be them, it might be the model that you're following. And that's because most sales teams today aren't teams at all. They're what we call teams in parallel. You've got some people doing similar work independently. What we've done is we've built a lightweight reset to help your managers lead them in the right way using clarity, identity, and autonomy. And if that sounds like your world, grab the free Parallel Team Playbook at the Practical Leadership Academy website. It's short, sharp, and made for senior sales leaders, CROs, and folks with teams of managers just like you. Hazel Anderson Turner, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So you've got this wonderful book, Coaching Through Burnout. It is a powerful toolkit for leaders. What are some of the key strategies some of our sales managers can implement to avoid burnout in themselves and in their teams?
Well, I think the first one is knowing what burnout is. So I think...
What is burnout?
Well, I think it's one of those like buzzwords, isn't it? It's one of those things, it's kind of, I don't know, people go, oh, feeling a bit burnt out, and actually understanding what it is in reality, I think is that first step. So burnout is the combination of exhaustion, a bit of cynicism and detachment. So we've started to kind of distance ourselves from our work, and a sense of like ineffectiveness or feeling like you're failing, you're just not getting to stuff. So it's a combination of these three things, and it is about chronic stress. So we all experience a bit of stress, don't we? And we know a little bit of stress is good for us.
Yeah.
But this is about unhelpful stress that we just can't recover from, you know, day after day after day, week after week, month after month. It's just stress that goes on for a long period and leads to those three symptoms.
So you've got, I mean, just for the non-medical ones here, the two words I think people don't really understand very well is the difference between acute and chronic. So acute is not cute. It is something that's short and sharp and happens occasionally. So it's that stress. It's you see your kid about to run into the road and you go, and you leg it over there and you grab them back. It happens in the second, in the moment, and doesn't last for very long. The chronic is the stuff that continues quite a while. And I'm going to, the example in my world is going to be quarter end, month end, something like that. You get a day, 2, 3, 10, and then it's over. Yeah. If, however, you're in a failing business or something's going wrong or there's a group of people that are causing you pain or whatever it is, and that just goes on and on. The challenge I think you have is how do you see yourself clear enough to know that you need to dig yourself out?
Yeah, and that is a massive problem. And I think that's why, for me, the first step is noticing and awareness. So when I'm delivering sessions or, you know, talking about burnout, it is about raising awareness in people, because often people come to talk to me because they want to help their teams. And I do a bit of a disclaimer at the start, and I say, I've had so many leaders who have come to me saying, I really want to help my team prevent burnout. You know, I can see people starting to fall over, and then I start to go through the symptoms. I start to talk about, you know, what burnout is, and they have this sudden moment of, oh my God, I thought I was okay, but now I think about it. Yes, my sleep is terrible. Yes, I have stopped doing the hobbies that I used to enjoy. Yeah, I really do feel like every day I'm just trying to get to the end of the day, and I'm just holding on until my next holiday. And I think often it's through our interest in helping others that then we realize in ourselves. I think, you know, so I came to this work because I experienced burnout myself, and
often the case that it's so
yeah,
often,
it is.
I mean, it doesn't really matter what things people who genuinely seek to serve and who have success in doing so are trying to solve a problem for themselves.
Yeah, and also I think there is this bit of the awareness that it gives you when you go through it yourself. I think
Mm,
particularly as a psychologist, I mean, I talk about how embarrassing it was for me. So I was a psychologist, I've been a leader for many years, and I didn't see it coming. And I think being able to take both my personal experience and then my academic background and the work that I was doing, it enabled me that unique perspective, I think, to look at it and go, well, if that happened to me,
mhm.
what can I take to help others
Yeah.
in the future? And you're right, there's definitely this motivation to go, I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through. Is there a way that I can be of service?
And the service thing, I mean, my ethos is that is fundamentally a Christian one, but it's this idea of servant leadership.
Hmm.
And it's this thing that you're designed to do. You're meant to be of service. And if you are of service, if you're feeling down, go serve. If you're feeling miserable, go help someone else. There's always some other poor bugger out there who's worse off than you are. Right? Go help someone. Go do something to help, to serve someone else. And if you serve someone else, it's almost selfish.
Hmm.
It's beneficially service because you're helping somebody, great.
Mm.
But you get to go home at night, and as long as you're not bragging about it, you're sitting there going, I did good today. Even if you don't think that, it's in your soul.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to do. The challenge, I think, exactly as you named it, is you're going through this journey of thinking, I'm going to try and serve my team, but I haven't slept more than 3 hours a night for the last 6 months, and I've put on 50 kilos, and I'm
Yeah.
eating cake by the gallon, and
Yeah, and I think as well, you can get into a place as a leader. I think when you're in that place and, with total compassion, you get to quite a selfish place because your mind becomes totally focused on your survival.
Mhm.
And so what often can happen is that you stop asking for help, or you get very much like in that fixer mindset of, I can't afford to give it to anyone else in the team. I just need to get, it's going to get, if I do it, it's going to get done right. And I'm just going to keep it all myself. It's really, really interesting that what the mind does when we're in a place of moving towards burnout is it actually uses some coping mechanisms that get us there quicker. So we kind of narrow our focus and we're like, if I just worked harder, if I just push myself a bit more, if I just rely on myself and I push other people away, then I'm going to get through this. And the reality is that actually that gets you closer to a place of crisis with burnout.
I blame computers entirely. I genuinely do. I blame the fact that we spend so much time in front of screens and immersed in the pain, and we surround ourselves with the pain, and all we see is the pain. I have a great friend, James. He's an amazing mountain biker, among many other things. And he says that when you're cycling down a hill, the last thing you do is look at where you're going. I said, what? And I've seen some of his GoPro videos, going up and down and all over the place. He says, how can you not look where you're going? No, you look past where you're going. Because if you look at where you're going to go, you're going to hit it. And if all you're doing is focusing on the pain and focusing on the things that cause you the pain, that's what you're going to get. It's more and more pain. I think when we used to go out to the pub, and we used to have time outside, or we used to have to write letters or even send faxes, goodness me, or inter-office memos back in the 1950s, it was slightly slower. And there were more things going on than just this immediacy, the focus on the pain. And I think it's almost addictive. It's almost addictive. There's probably an aspect of addiction in there as well. I am no psychologist. I'm an amateur, but I've been dealing with salespeople and humans for a very long time, and I've got a rough idea. Addiction, I think, isn't the opposite of sobriety and health. I think addiction is the opposite of connection. And because we don't connect to other people who can point to us and say, go for a walk, or whatever your solution is going to be, which is get out in the sun, you end up just focusing and focusing and focusing and narrowing in, and exactly as you said, everything you're doing to try and solve the problem is making it worse. So, anyway, that's my yellow crayon psychological textbook for the day.
Yeah, and there's definitely a link, isn't there? When you think about the dopamine and the adrenaline that you get from busyness.
Yeah.
And
With a
then we
Z,
use
busyness. Yeah.
we use artificial stimulants as well. So we're using coffee and sugar as well to kind of keep us going and motivate us. And so, yeah, there's definitely that we're definitely, you get a bit of a buzz, don't you, from, when you've worked really hard and you've been doing, and I don't know, there's the kind of the addiction as well to feeling like, I don't know,
Important.
I'm worthy. Like
Important.
I'm
Special.
important. I'm special. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was made redundant about 5 years ago, and I felt grief. I mean, I knew it was coming because I was part of the process of making it happen, right? But there's an element of grief in there, and there's this stopping of being important because I was like a mini celebrity, senior exec flying around the world. People go, "Oh, his Paul's coming, I'm fabulous." Okay, then let's go for dinner. And all of a sudden, bang, stops. You're not important anymore. But the realization of what was happening there doesn't come until a year or two later, and you go, you were whacked off, you were mad, you were going insane, you were addicted to the busyness, the importance, the status, and all that sort of stuff, and not really getting much done. And you go back to the burnout, and I was at the very edges of disillusionment and burnout, and thinking I can go through the motions and I'm doing the thing, but I really don't give two shits about this at all. It's no longer fun, all that stuff. And it was a very healthy thing for me to get canned, totally. Eventually, very freeing, very liberating. If you're listening to this right now, Hazel's going to take us through, I'm preempting for you. What are the 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, these are the things that if you tick the box, you should then do whatever it is she tells you to do next. Okay? So listen, Hazel's about to speak because I've spoken too long. Hazel.
So I think the things to look out for me, sleep is a massive one. So for some people, it is struggling to get to sleep at night. For other people like me, it's the 3 a.m. cortisol wake up. So if you're noticing that is becoming chronic, so that's happening a lot, then that's definitely a signal. If you're noticing that you are finding it very hard to put technology down, so if you're needing to distract yourself a lot, particularly outside of the workplace, then again, you've got a mind that is kind of looking for a distraction from some discomfort that it's feeling. So that's something to look out for. Like I said, starting to push away the things that actually help you process stress, which again is counterintuitive, but stopping doing exercise, stopping seeing friends, feeling like, how can I go out, go to my son's football match, and then, do some socializing afterwards when I've got this project which is due in on Monday, and it is not worth the rubbish that I'm going to feel or have to deal with on Monday if I don't just sit down and do it on Sunday. But it's noticing that, again, that becomes a pattern. It becomes the norm that you start to limit that kind of outside world stuff. And
The connection.
yeah,
You're limiting the connection.
yeah, and you're doing more just get it done
On your own.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that cynicism bit is really important. So again, that feeling of, like actually the organization doesn't care about me. In the NHS, it's kind of like, oh, wouldn't it be great if there weren't any patients? So when we start
COVID-19, no patients. Brilliant.
Yeah, and we just feel like we're going through the motions. So if you're starting to get really cynical and you've lost the love, again, that's something to look out for, because this isn't just about exhaustion. This is about our relationship with our work and how it connects to what's important to us.
So there is, I think, the healthy side of cynicism is to temper it and call it pragmatism. And I would call myself a skeptical, pragmatic optimist. So, right, a skeptical, pragmatic optimist. So I think everything's going to be great. I know that there's a plan. It's not mine. I know it's going to be good. I want to make sure that everything that can go well will go well. However, trust but verify. And is this actually going to work? How are we going to make this work? Yes, that's very nice, but how's it actually going to work? So you've got the cynicism for pragmatism there. Cynicism is almost giving up. This is a waste of time.
Yeah.
This is a waste of time. But the pragmatism is, I can make it work if we just dial it down to the fundamentals and I understand my relationship with my work. Not the people, but my relationship with my work, which is the organization. Yeah. And the challenge, especially in something as big as the NHS, it's not a company, right? I work for companies, and NHS is an organization. In fact, the NHS in the UK is a quasi-religious institution, okay? There are priests, there are high priests, and there are. You know, you have the consultants are the high priests, okay? You have the directors of whatever it is, and they are all the priestly class, okay? And then you have the acolytes, and then you have us plebs wandering through in our white gowns with our bums hanging out. So there's that. Companies, the word company comes from with bread, compan. People that I would break bread with. You don't break bread with 100,000 person institution, organization like Cisco or Microsoft or the NHS. You don't know that. You know the people there. You might have a small subsection or a group that you can bond and gel with, but your relationship isn't with those people. Your relationship is with the organization, the institution, if it's that scale. And the pragmatic relationship that I think is healthy is, I will be as dedicated and as loyal to this organization as they would be to me. How long will I last when I don't need to last here anymore? 2 minutes. Here's your ticket, out the door. Slightly less in the public, slightly different in the public sector, but not that far removed. Okay, you don't sing from the right hymn sheet, gone. Okay, you're promoted to Ulster or something pleasant. I love Ulster, by the way. It's a great place. So there is that pragmatism, the pragmatic approach of my relationship to the organization that I'm within. Just keeping it real.
Yeah, and I think healthy perspective.
Healthy cynicism. It's not cynicism, healthy skepticism.
Yeah, I think, that is really important. So like we said earlier, when your identity is too attached to the organization, when you've got when it's got into an unhealthy place of, I can't leave here. I absolutely need this.
I'm essential.
I'm important. That's not healthy. And at the other end, it's not healthy to just be like, I'm just coming in for the paycheck and I've lost my connection. Phoning
it in, the Americans would call it. They were phoning it in.
Yeah. It's just, pragmatically, we might be able to say, well, that is the transaction, isn't it? That is the transaction that I'm doing. I show up for work and they pay me money. The reality is that we are humans that have values.
And purpose. We need
those things, don't we?
Desperately.
And I think, you can kid yourself. You can kid yourself that you can just be in it for the money. The reality is that there has to be something else that you're getting from it. There has to be, some other benefit. Because the more that you switch off, I think the more that you then move away, the more you become disengaged. And it becomes harder and harder to motivate yourself.
There was what was his name? Daniel Pink. He wrote a book called Drive, The Surprising Truth About Things That Motivate Us. And he wrote the 3 things that motivate people, in his opinion. It was autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy, you get left alone to do what it is you need to do yourself. Mastery, you get a chance to develop and grow and learn things. And purpose, you have to have a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And he said later, about 10 or 15 years after he wrote the book, that he was slightly wrong. He thought that there was a capital P and a lowercase p. Capital P, purpose, changing the world, doing good for humanity. Hard to get out of bed to change the world and do good for humanity. The lowercase p, the small p, purpose, the whispered purpose, is what actually gets you out of bed. And that's not letting your colleagues down. That's being there, being one of the team, identifying as flying the same flag as everyone else. Whether you're an independent in a parallel team of salespeople or teachers, or you're actually in a collegiate dependent team who need each other to do to meet the goal, there's still the concept of a shared identity. What is it like to be part of this team? Who else? What people, sorts of people are part of this team? You know, not just people who dial it in, not just people who get away with it.
Yeah.
Right. You've identified the characteristics of sleep, needing distraction, stopping these connections, these friends, exercises. There's the sense of cynicism here. Okay, so we've ticked all the boxes. Oh, I'm ticking all the boxes, Hazel. What do I do?
So obviously it depends where you're at. So I have to say that if you are really close to that point of burnout, then a professional, so a GP, whatever your source of going and getting support is. So the work that I do is about prevention. So generally, I am talking to people that are getting those early warning signs. So if you were getting all of those and you're like, oh my gosh, this is really bad. I am, a bit like you described, I'm at this precipice, then going and getting professional help is really important. But there are absolutely things that you can do if you're starting to see those symptoms or you're just getting a bit concerned about yourself. And in the book, so I divided it into 3 sections. So the first section is about, what burnout is and sharing different stories around burnout. The middle section is about how you can help others through conversation. So the types of conversations that are helpful. And mostly that is about getting away from a place of just being incredibly directive in your leadership style to being much more coaching, conversational, asking really good questions and listening to the answers and supporting individuals. You talked about autonomy, but supporting your team to identify what's within their control and to build their own self-efficacy. So their sense that they're able to improve their situation and to work out collective solutions. Because often burnout, it's not an individual thing. It is a team thing. It's an organizational thing. And so we need team and organizational solutions. So we need to get together, all of us just head down trying to get through it. Isn't going to help us to get out of it. We have to talk about, okay, what is it about the demands we're facing that means that we're all really struggling at the moment? What additional resources might we need, or how could we work together differently in order to help each other from, not falling over? So there are. It really is about the quality of our conversations. And I think what's really challenging is when time is really tight and we just feel like we're busy, busy, busy and working every hour, convincing our mind that actually what a good thing to do is to stop and let's start getting a bit curious and let's start asking ourselves some really good questions. A bit like you were saying about your cyclist friend. Let's take our eyesight away from just the immediate, got to get that report out, got to get that email out, to how are we going to sustain this? How are we, what can we do about the demands we're facing, about the resources that are available in order to collectively find a way out of this situation that we found ourselves in? So that's the middle part of the book. And then the last part of the book is more for the leader themselves. So it looks at how understanding what's really important to you can be really helpful around preventing burnout, and it goes into practical ways to do that. It looks at the inner critic, because a lot of the time we keep ourselves in a place of high stress, because our mind is saying, come on, just put your big boy or girl pants on and just keep going, and we can be incredibly hard on ourselves. And then it also looks at something you talked about at the very start around pace. About pausing, around how do we slow things down a little bit? Because again, when we're going really, really fast, generally we are not thinking well. We are not making good decisions. And it's finding ways that we can get some pause in, find some ways to notice what's going on, to enable us to take control of the stuff that actually is within our control. So that was a massive download.
Beautiful. No, that's there you go. Problem solved.
All in one book.
All in one book. And the link to the book is in the description down here, coaching for burnout, right? So it's coaching to avoid getting burnt out through burnout, sorry, coaching through burnout. Okay. Now, the high pressure environment, obviously you were working in healthcare, helping various different practitioners here. What would you think? What's the best thing I can ask you? So I think there's an aspect of communication and leadership here as well. So, and that's, you need to, I think, build this up before you need it. Ideally, you've spent the time building an environment where people have a bit of trust with each other. And it's very hard if you're coming into, one of the things that I do is I help companies who are challenged, and you come in and everybody's at each other's throats, or there's a lot of stress. There's people close to burnout there. I don't have the intellectual capacity, but not the emotional credibility with people to say, it's okay to tell us what's going on. Well, no, it's not. I'll get yelled at because the guy whose position you just took used to yell at me. He said, I'm not that guy. So you've then got to spend the effort, the intellectual and the emotional energy, getting to a point where you can be trusted. And almost a lot of the time, it happens because they no longer care. Now you can catch them. You've got a cusp, a moment in time just before they say what they're actually talking about, and then they shut up. Because if they've shut up, they've gone past caring. Right? So they no longer care what you think or what happens, because they know it's all going to crap and they're probably going to get fired, or everything's dying. Beyond that, they've given up and they've already left mentally, or they're on the way out the door. So you've got that moment in time that ideally you started 6 months before. So you've got an environment, a community that trusts each other there. So what would you suggest to managers, sales managers, somebody like that, who could support somebody who's struggling, but then dial it back a wee bit? How would you ideally have done this before?
So I think one of the best questions that you can ask in order to build trust really quickly is, tell me what's important to you. So often leaders, understandably, we're asking questions about, tell me about anything you're struggling with. We're very quick to get into the work, and that makes sense. And we want to be helpful. So we're kind of like, tell me what you're struggling with, and then we'll work out a plan. And they might even go into a coaching place where they're supporting that individual to develop their own skills. Brilliant. But if you want to build an emotional level of trust with someone, saying to them, what is most important to you? What are the bits that you're fearful about? What are you worried that might be the outcome of this? Getting into that language. So like I say, in the book, we talk about values, and this bit is really important, because when we understand our values, we have a better idea of who we are, separate from the role we're playing at work, separate from whatever we're delivering. And when a leader says, shows, I'm interested in you beyond your role, but beyond the output that you do for me, not just in I know the name of your children or your dog or what activities you do. That helps. Yeah, it does help. It also really helps when you're able to say to someone, when something happens, maybe someone's got a value of fairness. So they've said to you, actually, do you know what? The thing that's really bugging me about this thing is that it's not fair. And so later, something happens and this is going to trigger this person's fairness thing. I know. So you walk into a meeting with them and you say, look, I know how important fairness is to you. This thing's happened over here. It's done for this reason. I know it's going to be challenging for you because of that fairness aspect. So let's work through, how you might navigate this and how I can support you to do that. Honestly, that says to that person, I get you. I don't just, if you're upset about something or you're worrying about something, I understand why. And it's okay. It's because you're a person that cares about stuff. And I care about what you care about. So we're not always going to agree. So my values, I might not have a core value of fairness, but I've got a value of integrity. So let's bring those two together and talk about how we can navigate this with those values. And we don't have to talk openly. And I guess that's why I say the question is, look, tell me what feels important about this, because sometimes it can sound a bit, I don't know, woo woo, or, when you're going like, tell me what your values are. But I think it just comes down to that, tell me what you care about. Tell me what bugs you about this, and getting into that humanness. And I think that's the safety bit. I think we've kind of touched on that whole psychological safety. That's what we're trying to create, isn't it? When you said, if you could only have come in 6 months earlier, what the environment that you've wanted to create is one where someone feels safe to go, hey, I'm not okay, or I'm really struggling with this, or, I need some help. And I think that conversation about the things that matter, that really matter, is just so important to lay that foundation.
Beautiful. The values thing, I think, are vastly underrated. There's so many organizations that laminate them on a keychain or something like that. And values are things that you value, that are valuable to you, that you would be hurt if they were taken away from you. Somebody steals your wallet, you're going to be pissed off, And unless you're able to use them as a decision-making tool, I have a decision ahead of me. I need to then look at my values and say, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Okay, let's do it. It doesn't line up. Unless you can use them as a decision-making tool, the decorative for performance are. So the value things. Tell me what's important to you is wonderful. Tell me what's important to you. Tell me where you want to be next. What's your next job look like? This is my thing for keeping high potentials, by the way. When you find somebody who you think might be a person to hang on to, where do you want to be next? What's your role after that? Okay, let's create a plan to get you there. What? Yeah, totally. It might be here, it might be somewhere else, but let's make sure that you get the experiences and the knowledge, so that when it's time for you to go to your next job, you get it. It show me you know me. Show me you know me. It's a sales thing, right? The reason I love sales is it's a microcosm of life. Is show me you know me. You actually understand somebody. You diagnose them. It's no prescription without diagnosis. You should do this. Why? You don't know who I am.
Yeah. And again, I think that's why the listening piece, and I imagine it must happen to sales managers. So like you say, there are skills that they have in a sales space around, ask questions that are going to get people talking about themselves and opening up to you, and then listen really well and listen for the things that are important to them, and then use that to build rapport. And it's really fascinating, isn't it? Because that's the same in lots of different industries. And then we go into management and something weird happens, because we believe that suddenly our role is to transmit, that we have to be the expert, that it's about this amazing wisdom that we're going to be sharing with everyone else. Whereas actual fact, the biggest skill that you can have is asking good questions and listening to the answers, which is the skill that you had in your previous role. And it's just fascinating, isn't it? The identity of a manager or leader, like the idea that we have in our head, can be such a limiting factor on us really, being good at that role.
It's the archetype of kings. It's the archetype of kings. So this is a conversation for an entirely separate episode, but it's the idea that I think it's fathers and kings, okay? And we're all children and serfs. That's fine for the hierarchical relationship, because actually that's just how humans tend to work. There's any community over a certain size has a king or a chief or a judge or something. But then you become the king, or a king, or a prince, or a lesser queen, or whatever it is, and you think, I have to act in a certain way that is now completely separate from everything that I've learned and done, and then what in the hell are you doing? You're spending all your time alienating and damaging all these wonderful relationships you'd spent all these years building up.
Well, do you know what I did? My worst point as
Go
a
on.
leader, as a new leader, I actually said the old Cartman, like respect my authority.
Oh, yes.
I did that, and
Yes.
you know,
You
after I can hear him
win.
like I don't know if I can do his accent, you know,
Go on,
respect
go on.
authority, but I can hear it in the back of my head, and you know,
See
you're
you
at that
guys. I'm going home.
moment. Yeah, that's it, better than mine. But that suddenly realization, like, oh my gosh, who the hell have I become?
That's
Yeah.
magnificent. That's magnificent. Last word then. If I gave you 10,000 billboards and you had one message that you were going to share with the entire world and they would see your name against it, what would the message be? Doesn't have to be related to anything we've talked about.
Oh, it doesn't.
No, no, no. What's important to you? What's important to you, Hazel?
Oh God. Yeah, because again, you know, if it was related to the topic, it would definitely be the, you know, ask a question and listen to the answer. And because often it is the simplest things, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah. My general thing is, you know, don't be a dick, but I don't know
That's
if that's
good as well.
appropriate.
That's totally good.
I
Yeah,
think we all just, I mean, it would keep me out of a job, to be honest. But I think, yeah, there is that whole thing of, yeah, just try and be a decent human, isn't it? I think it's so funny how, and again, said with compassion, how we get into these roles, like we said, and we try and squeeze ourselves into this thing of who we think we should be. And actually, yeah, I think maybe there's something about trusting, like trusting ourselves. Because I think often when we're acting in a role of what a manager or leader should be, that's because we don't have trust that we can find our own way, that we can do it in our own, you know, path of what that looks like. That's a very, very long billboard, isn't it? Sorry.
I think it's outstanding. I think you should stick with don't be a dick.
Yeah.
It boils down. Hazel Anderson Turner, thank you so very much indeed for joining me.
Thank you for having me.